Wow, it's been a while since we played a game, right?
Yes, time has passed and continues to pass. I'm fully developed now.
You are, yeah.
Deteriorating, some might say.
What?
So what are we playing? What is this?
That's like a re-release of this game we used to play as kids. Remember we used to play this game?
I do remember some of childhood.
This game was so fun. We used to have so much fun playing it.
Oh, yeah. I used to be sloshing with dopamine when we'd play this.
Oh, gross.
That stuff would shoot out like a busted pipe.
Okay, well, let's get back into it.
We'll try.
All right. Oh, here we go.
Let's do this.
They really remastered the polygons.
Yeah. Responsibilities.
What?
Responsibilities.
What about them?
We have those. Quite a bit of them.
I know.
So.
What? Don't say stuff like that. We're trying to have fun.
Sorry.
Oh, when you jump, they added a tail bounce, like the tail bounces.
It's pretty cool when they do that kind of thing. The state of the world.
What?
The state of the world.
What about it?
It's not great. Feels ominous.
Why are you... Don't talk about stuff like that. This is supposed to be an enjoyable escape from all that.
Oh, my bad.
This is fun. These are fun times we're having.
I totally hear you, so I'm not going to bring up the expensive sounding noise the car made on the way home. That we should probably get checked out.
Exactly. Don't bring that up.
And tax season, that's totally off the table to talk about.
Right. We are having fun with a video game like when we were kids.
I totally get it.
Thank you.
You should get that crystal.
The crystal. Yes. The crystal. I got the crystal. It was fun. That was good.
Why does it say 1 out of 100?
Because I guess you got to get 100 of them.
Wow. How long do you think that'll take?
You know, several hours, I imagine.
Several hours. Wow. And that's something we're gonna do.
We're supposed to.
Didn't we say we were gonna start working out more, but then we were like, oh, we just can't find the time to do that?
This is relaxing.
Are you sure?
It would be if you did that dopamine thing you used to do.
I think we've seen too much for me to properly do that anymore.
Well, we're gonna try because we used to love this, so focus.
Understood. I'm focusing.
Me too. Second crystal. This is fun.
So what's the point of this?
I need to punch the other animals and get their crystals.
So like, what's the point of this?
Oh my God.
What do you think the full length of this game is?
I read that it's 30 hours.
Wow, so if you play this for 2 hours right now and then do that every day, it's gonna take you more than 2 weeks to get through this.
All right, you did it. You ruined it. I'm not interested in playing this anymore.
Oh, well, it was a waste of time anyway, if we're being honest. I mean, you were about to waste several hours on that.
Yep.
Want to take out your phone and spend several hours on TikTok?
Oh,
Oh, all too relatable. All too relatable. I too used to be able to enjoy video games. And yes, the pesky brain, responsibilities, and being an adult somehow gets in the way of enjoying video games.
What if I told you the 3 hours you spent on your phone yesterday actually took longer than the entire month of February? I know that sounds impossible, but neuroscience just discovered why your brain processes phone time differently than real time. Before that, here's something to try right now. Check your screen time from yesterday. Look at that number. Now try to remember anything specific you saw on your smartphone during those hours. Anything at all. Strange, isn't it? Those hours feel like they never happened, like they exist in some kind of void where time moves differently than normal reality. For years, scientists thought they understood how humans process time. The old model was simple. When you're engaged in something interesting, time flies. When you're bored, time drags.
Sure.
That's why everyone assumed phone time felt fast, because it's entertaining. But the math wasn't mathing. You see, researchers at Stanford noticed a pattern. People weren't just losing track of time on phones. They were experiencing time fundamentally differently than any other activity in human history. Different from watching TV, different from reading books, different even from playing video games. Let me show you what these researchers found because it changes everything we thought we knew about attention and time. Your brain creates your sense of time by stringing together moments of focused attention like beads on a necklace. Each clear moment of experience becomes a distinct memory that your brain uses to measure time passing. This system evolved over millions of years when humans lived in a much simpler world.
Sure.
Our ancestors needed to remember where they found food, which plants were poisonous, and how to get back to shelter, so our brains got really good at one thing, creating clear, distinct memories of focused experiences. But phones have created something entirely new, micro-attention. Instead of focusing for minutes or hours, your brain is now switching attention every few seconds. Every notification, every scroll, Every new image, every like, every comment, each one fragments your attention into smaller and smaller pieces. MIT neuroscientists recently discovered something fascinating. It takes your brain about 23 seconds to fully engage with any new piece of information, but the average person switches attention on their phone every 6 to 8 seconds. This means your brain never gets to complete its processing cycle. It's like trying to take a photo while constantly shaking the camera. This creates what scientists call temporal fragmentation. Think of it like this. Normal memories are like full photographs, clear, distinct, easy to remember. But phone time creates thousands of partial exposures that never fully develop into real memories. Want to see this in action? Try another quick experiment. Think about your last vacation. You can probably remember specific conversations, what you ate, how things felt, clear moments in time. Now try to remember what you looked at during your last scrolling session. Even though it might have been hours, it's like trying to remember a dream. Here's where it gets really interesting. Your brain has two main ways of processing experience. Active processing creates clear memories, builds actual neural pathways, and makes time feel real. Passive processing creates hazy or no memories, doesn't build lasting pathways, and makes time feel phantom. This is where phones have created something unprecedented. They've invented a third state, fragmented processing, where your brain is constantly starting but never finishing its natural memory creation cycle. This explains something that's happening across society. People in their 20s and 30s are experiencing what used to only happen to the elderly. Time seems to speed up exponentially each year. Think about kids born after 2010. They're the first humans in history growing up with fragmented attention as their default state.
Wow.
Their brains are literally developing differently because they're processing time differently than any generation before them. We're seeing this everywhere. Rising ADHD diagnoses, increasing anxiety, memory issues in young people, difficulty with sustained focus, and time perception disorders, all tracking perfectly with smartphone adoption rates. But wait, there's always good news at Wobbleverse. Your brain hasn't lost the ability to process time normally. The machinery is still there, it's just being overwhelmed by fragmentation. Think of it like trying to have a conversation while someone interrupts you every 6 seconds. Eventually, you stop trying to form complete thoughts. This isn't just about wasted time, it's about lost experience. Those phantom hours aren't just missing from your schedule, they're missing from your life. Your brain never properly encoded them, so they might as well have never happened. But once you understand this mechanism, you can actually hack it. Not by using your phone less, but by using it completely differently. Instead of fragmenting your attention, create what neuroscientists call temporal bookends. These are clear start and stop points that let your brain complete its natural processing cycle. For example, choose 3 specific videos to watch, read exactly 5 posts, spend a defined 15 minutes on messages. When you start doing this, something remarkable happens. Not only does time start feeling normal again, but your days begin feeling richer, fuller, more memorable, more like they did when you were younger. Imagine looking back on your week and actually remembering what happened. Instead of losing entire days to the digital void, you're fully present for your own life. This isn't just about personal time management, it's about reclaiming your actual lived experience. Because time isn't just passing, it's being experienced. Or in the case of phone time, not being experienced at all.
Excuse me. Do you mind if I,
Free country. What's that?
Oh, nothing.
Sure it's not a 1-minute time machine?
Huh? Damn it. Excuse me. Do you mind if I,
It's free country. What's that?
Well, it certainly isn't a 1-minute time machine. Damn it. It's my lunchbox.
It's weird. I like weird.
Cool. I'm Lanes. I'm James.
James. Are you trying to pick me up?
No, come on. Do I look that strong?
Are you trying to pick me up?
Yes. I mean, trying to.
Try harder.
Hi.
Harder.
Coffee.
Harder.
Dinner. We go back to my place
Right now?
and make sweet love.
Oh.
And fuck our brains out.
Finally. I'm so sick of men who can't just ask for what they want.
I want you to spank my bad little boy bottom. Come on, I thought you'd. Yeah, no. I want to spank you.
We're going right now.
Oh. Hey, you like science?
Science. My 5-year-old niece likes science. I have a doctorate in quantum mechanics.
Oh, you like theoretical quantum mechanics regarding both our perceptions of time and how we deal with universal spatial geography.
Yeah. What's your favorite part?
The butt. We were still talking about science. Time travel.
Me too. Oh, it's amazing. Scary as shit, though, right?
I know. Wait, what? Why?
Well, have you read the chapter on practical application?
Of course, I read the chapter on practical application.
And?
And I am just gonna hit this little red button here.
Excuse me. I'm sorry. Who are you? What are you doing with my book?
Shh. I need to read this real fast. Don't worry. This one doesn't even count. Let's see here. 95 pages? Fuck that. No, I haven't actually read that. Been too busy doing instead of reading.
Doing actual practical time traveling? Have you used that yet?
I don't know. Maybe.
For me?
Does that creep you out?
No. No, it's actually really beautiful.
You really think so?
Yeah, I've never had a man fight for me before, let alone die for me.
Well, I'm sorry, die? No, I'm still here.
Yeah, not you, exactly. But that's the point of the chapter, right? Time travel's impossible.
No, it's not impossible. I've done it.
No, every time you've pushed that button, you've created a copy of yourself in a parallel world that exists 1 minute in your past. Your original body dies in the genuine or the earlier universe.
Oh,
How many times?
I don't know. Maybe 16?
Anybody? Oh, nothing. Are you? Oh my God! Oh God! Shit! Someone please help me! Oh God! It's touching me! Okay, wake up now.
I've killed myself 16 times.
You know, the bright side is you're the first successful multiple suicide. It's pretty cool. Hey, look. Let's go back to my place and just forget all about this stupid little murder box.
Murder box.
The suicide machine. Who cares? That wasn't you. It was them.
I can't.
Shit, really?
How am I ever gonna get a boner again, knowing what I know?
Damn it. Regina, too, you better thank me for this. What's your favorite part?
Time travel.
Me too. It's amazing. Scary as...
Scary? What do you mean?
No, nothing. I mean, it's not like this is some multi-dimensional murder box or anything, right?
Huh?
Damn it.
It's a clever little short film I found a while back, wanted to share with you. Obviously, they take the groundhog kind of approach of just being, brought back in time like that. I'm curious exactly the mechanics of that, if that just takes you back to a specific point in time or how that exactly works. There have been multiple, shows or movies that have dabbled into this kind of concept. And it's always pretty fascinating, the approach that they take. They take the very murderous route for this avenue, but definitely an interesting watch nevertheless.
The glass was just in a small pocket. I guess it's just gonna be the two of us. weather this weekend. Here, let me pack you a little Scooby snack. Damn, shit's purple. Super sticky. It's crazy to think we're just a small speck. Holy shit. There was a meteor that just cut through Perseus straight into Draco's tail. I thought it was gonna hit Earth. Who are we listening to? Delicate Steve. Delicate Steve? Yeah. I like it. Sire.
Did I hear somebody say Scooby Snacks?
We got a live one.
As always, all the videos will be linked down below, guys. In the meantime, of course, hit the like and subscribe. It would be much appreciated. Let's get back into it.
Because democracy basically means government by the people, of the people, for the people. But the people are retarded.
So sad, but so true.
Stuck at an intersection, you always watch unfold the fundamental problem of traffic. On green, the first car accelerates, and then the next, and then the next, and then the next, and then you, only to catch the red. Had the cars accelerated simultaneously, you would have made it through. Coordination, not cars, is the problem, because we are monkey drivers with slow reaction times and short attention spans. Even if we tried, getting everyone to press the pedal on 3, 2, 1 now would be challenging. This discoordination limits how many cars can get through an intersection, and when one backs up to the next, that's when city-sized gridlock cascades happen, taking forever to clear. In general, more intersections equals more discoordination, which equals more traffic. This is the motive behind big highways. No intersections. Splits and merges, yes. Intersections, no. No stopping, no coordination problems, no traffic. Well, that's the theory anyway. Intersections outside of a highway will back up onto it, again, because human reaction times limit how many cars can escape the off-ramp when the light changes. But even without intersections, there would still be traffic on the highway. Traffic can just appear. Take a one-lane highway with happy cars flowing until a chicken crosses the road. The driver who sees it brakes a little, the driver behind him doesn't notice immediately and brakes a little harder than necessary, the driver behind him does the same until someone comes to a complete stop. And oh look, cars approaching at highway speeds must now stop as well. Though the chicken is long gone, it left a phantom intersection on the highway. This is what's happened when you're stuck in traffic for hours thinking there must be a deadly pile up ahead, and then suddenly the traffic's over with no wreckage in sight. To your relief if you're a good person and mild annoyance if you aren't. You just passed through a phantom intersection, the cause of which is long gone. And this phantom intersection moves. It's really a traffic snake slithering down the road, eating oncoming cars at one end and pooping them out the other. On a ring road, a single car slowing down will start an ouroboros of traffic that will last forever, even though there's no problem with the road. If the drivers could coordinate to accelerate and separate simultaneously, easy driving would return, but they can't, so traffic eternal. On highways, traffic snakes grow if cars are eated faster than excreted, and they shrink if excreted faster than eated, dying when the last car accelerates away before the next car must stop. Now, in multi-lane highways, there needs be no chicken to start gridlock. A driver crossing lanes quickly with cars too close behind is enough to birth a traffic snake that lives for hours and leagues. It's this quick crossing that causes drivers behind to overbrake and begin a chain reaction. But we can make traffic snakes less likely by changing the way we drive. Your goal as a driver is to stay the same distance from the car ahead as from the car behind at all times. Tailgating is trouble, not just because it makes accidents more likely, but because you as the tailgater can start a traffic snake if the driver ahead brakes. Always in the middle. This gives you the most time to prevent overbraking, but also gives the driver behind you the most time as well. And when stuck in traffic, this rule would get all cars to pull apart the snake faster. That's the simple solution to traffic, getting humans to change their behavior, perhaps by sharing this video to show how and why traffic happens, why tailgaters are trouble, and how we can work together to make the roads better for all. The end.
Simply coordinate better, people. Simply coordinate better.
It's a bridge. Just
Goes around the corner. Walking on the fighting side of me. It don't. It don't go down.
Robert, it goes down.
No, it don't.
It do go down.
Oh!
Whoa, that's a full rainbow. All the way. Double rainbow. Oh my God. It's a double rainbow all the way. Whoa, that's so intense. Whoa, man. Wow. Whoa. 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 Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God. Woo. Oh my. Wow. Woo. Yeah. Oh my. Oh my. Oh my God, look at that. It's starting to even look like a triple rainbow. Oh my God, it's full on double rainbow all the way across the sky. Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh God. What does this mean?
What does this mean?
Oh my God. Oh.
So this is a classic viral video. I mean, maybe even one of the very first viral videos. His passion is undeniable. It is infectious. I absolutely love it. And ironically enough, I think I read the guy wasn't even on drugs. He was just full on happy. Like just genuinely happy. And that moment impacted him that much. Oh, it's beautiful. It really is.
Oh God, it's so bright. Oh my God, it's so bright and vivid. Oh, oh, oh. It's so beautiful.
The wind just picks up and the man starts weeping. Just absolutely weeping. Oh, that's too good. So next up we have a video from one of my favorite YouTubers named Wendigoon. I'm sure a lot of you have already become aware of him. He got big off of the conspiracy iceberg that he did a while back, and he's since branched out to a bunch of different topics and kinds of videos. But nevertheless, he was actually the one that gave me the confidence to delve into conspiracy theories online, because for a while it felt like if you dabbled into it at all, you were going to get shadow banned, which I might already be shadow banned if I'm honest, but it is what it is. Either way, we're going to look into one of his videos, and it's one of my favorite topics. I haven't seen this video in particular, but I know of the story that he's about to talk about, so let's dive in together.
On August the 10th of 2018, just after 7:30 p.m., a man named Richard Russell stole an Alaskan Airlines passenger plane from the Seattle, Washington airport. What happened over the course of the next hour and 10 minutes would go on to change aviation and the internet forever. Hello everybody, today we're going to be talking about the legend of Sky King, one of the most remembered and beloved hijackers in American history. And perhaps most importantly, we're going to talk about how the same guy who caused 2 military fighter jets to chase him down and caused people to be afraid of flying on a level not seen since 9/11 has also joined the Digital Hall of Fame as one of the internet's favorite anti-heroes. Even if you're familiar with this story, you still might want to stick around because there's been new developments with this case as recently as last year. That's because on April the 14th of 2022, the FBI finally released all of their reports regarding the investigation, a document that's over 500 pages long.
Wow.
Plus, a lot of new information regarding Richard has come from coworkers and friends and interviews in the past several years. And if you have never heard of this story before and have no idea who I'm talking about, then you are in for a treat today. The story of Richard Russell somehow manages to be terrifying, inspiring, and ridiculous all at once. And I, for one, am so excited to talk about it. So without further ado, let's get into the story of a notorious and controversial figure that will almost certainly put my name on any list it isn't already on at this point. Let me set the stage for you a little bit before we get into the middle of the action. The Seattle-Tacoma Airport of Washington State is, according to a pilot who was interviewed by Rolling Stones for this story, the 9th busiest airport in America. Because of that, as you can imagine, there's a lot of different employees going about their daily tasks without paying a lot of mind to what the others are doing. Because of this, no one thought it suspicious when a ground ops employee named Richard Russell began moving a plane using an air tug. For clarification, an air tug is a device used to move or rotate planes when they're on the runway or in an aircraft hangar. And a ground operations employee is exactly what the name sounds like. Ground ops are normally the people who are doing things like loading luggage in and out of planes or directing planes into the appropriate docking station. This plane, which was more specifically a Horizon Q400 turboprop passenger aircraft, was in the shop due to a problem with one of the passenger doors, but other than that, the plane worked just fine, as everyone would soon find out. The plane was a part of the Alaska Airlines fleet and featured the tail number of N449QX, a number that would become sort of infamous in aviation circles after this incident. Most websites I found list the occupancy of the plane to 76 passengers. However, for some reason, the FBI's report said that it was a 90-passenger plane. So maybe this was some kind of special edition that held an additional 14 seats somewhere, or the FBI got it wrong and it's actually 76. Either way, pretty big plane. The plane itself was over 100 feet long and nearly impossible to operate without a co-pilot, or at least that's what everyone thought. At 7:15 p.m., Richard Russell uses the air tug to rotate the plane 180 degrees so that it faces the runway. From there, Richard removes the stopping blocks from underneath the landing gear of the plane and walks back and forth from the air tug to the cockpit, seemingly trying to start the engine. Now again, on its own, this wouldn't raise any suspicions. Other than the fact that he's alone, someone like Richard has the qualifications to turn on a plane in order to taxi it from one part of the airport to the other for maintenance or what have you. The first sign that something was amiss would occur when, after disconnecting the air tug from the plane began to roll backwards, causing Richard to run next to it, open the door, jump in, and take control of the wheel.
Wow.
Again, this process is meant to be a two-person job. Richard then taxis the plane not to another service station or hangar, but instead to the main Seattle airport runway. As you could imagine, the airport was pretty busy, and while there's normally a guy up in the tower controlling what planes land where and what planes take off at what time, but Richard, who has no connection to air traffic control, is out there, according to one report, treating it like road traffic. In other words, he's acting like it's a stoplight intersection and letting one person pass before he goes, and then braking to let another person pass. As soon as the air control tower realizes they don't know who's flying that plane, panic ensues.
Oh my gosh.
One of the pilots who was cut off by Richard on the runway said that it appeared he had left the brakes on the landing gear as all of the wheels were smoking. The pilots, realizing that something's gone awry, began to yell at air traffic control to call the military because there's been a hijacking. From the control tower to pilots and passengers, everyone had to watch helplessly as, at 7:33 p.m., Richard Russell took flight, moving from his initial contact with the plane to takeoff in 18 minutes. As you can imagine, this was immediately a huge deal. Immediately, everyone's primary concern was some kind of terrorist attack, and if not that, some kind of heist or ransom. After all, people just don't steal passenger planes for no reason. Within minutes, pilots at the Portland Air National Guard base began suiting up to combat, again, what they believed to be some kind of terrorist attack. Air traffic control continued to try to get in contact with whoever was in the cockpit, but whoever it was wouldn't pick up. As everyone is panicking, flights in and out of Seattle are being canceled. Local population centers are being warned that an attack may be imminent. The fighter jets are about to arrive. 10 minutes into the flight, the person inside of the cockpit picks up.
Right, 070. Approach welcome, final runway 16 right. Welcome. Man, I'm a ground service agent. I don't know what that is. Clear to Portland, Seattle 6 is filed at 7017. Yeah, for this show, 416 right, that's not the run. Started up and get it to go. A couple hours, I guess. But, yeah, I wouldn't know how to land it. I wasn't really planning on landing it.
So to ask the question that you're all probably thinking, who was Richard Russell? Well, Richard Russell was born on September the 19th of 1989. He was born in Key West, Florida. However, at the age of 7, his family moved to Wasilla, Alaska, and it was here in Alaska that Richard would find a home. From a young age, his friends and family began to refer to Richard as Bebo, and young Richard Bebo Russell became a crowd favorite among his friends and family. After middle school, Richard would attend Wasilla High School, which is the same high school that Sarah Palin attended. That has no relation to the video.
No
I
bearing.
just felt compelled to mention that for some reason. Richard excelled not only socially, but in athletics as well. He played a lot of sports like wrestling and track and field, but where he really shined was in football. Richard played as a fullback and was hailed by many to be one of the star players of the league. So much so that when college rolled around, Richard went to North Dakota at the Valley City State University to play football. However, while a prodigy in high school, it seems that didn't transfer well into college. And after only a season of not a lot of playtime and poor performance when he did, Richard ended up leaving. He instead moved to Oregon and began attending the Southwestern Oregon Community College. Another important aspect of Richard Russell's life is that he was a devout Christian. So with a lot more free time in Oregon, because he's no longer playing football, Richard decides to take a leadership role in various ministries. He was a big leader in his local Young Life group. Young Life is an organization that primarily works with high school or college age students, and various other organizations like Campus Crusade for Christ. As a matter of fact, it was at one of these Campus Crusade meetings that Richard would meet Hannah, his future wife. It turns out the two of them had an interest in cooking, so while in Oregon, they opened their own restaurant called Hannah Marie's Artesian Breads. However, according to most interviews and people who just knew the family, it seems that Hannah was getting homesick and wanted to live closer to her family. So in 2015, the two of them sold the business and eventually began living in Sumner, Washington. Once there, Richard got his job with Horizon Air and even transferred to Washington State, where he graduated in 2017 with his bachelor's degree in social studies. It was actually during his time in college that he had to make various blog posts and videos of himself for assignments, and it's from some of these blog posts and videos that we learn more about him. For example, the fact that he's not exactly thrilled with his job.
Let me take a moment to reflect on how insane of a time it is, a period in time where so much of someone's life is documented online. For instance, this guy's recordings, presumably just him talking to himself, maybe studying. I mean, all the way down to somebody like a creator like me. If I were to pass away, so much of my life has been documented, and allowing anybody to really learn who I am, and in this case, being able to go back and find out more about the individual and potential backstory. Even our current capabilities are pretty wild, but imagining what, is in store in the future, where we can understand what people are thinking and dreaming about. But before we get to that, let's finish this video here.
And while he thinks planes are really cool, he hates the mundane nature of his current profession. However, one of the perks of the job, at least according to him, was free travel and getting to see his family back in Alaska whenever he wanted. So why was this guy, who by all outside accounts was living a perfectly normal, happy, married lifestyle, now in the cockpit of a stolen passenger plane? Well, what would become apparent in the eventual interviews and investigation, as well as the recording between air traffic control and Richard himself, is that Richard wasn't in the best state of mind. Again, this will become apparent with some of the sections of the tape recording that you're going to hear in a bit. But from the now released FBI reports, it seems that those around Richard had some sign that something was about to go wrong right before it did. Now, according to everyone who the FBI interviewed around Richard, as well as various, journal articles and news sources, everyone said that Richard was an incredibly kind guy, if a little quiet, but once you got him talking, he wouldn't stop, and he wanted to be best friends with everyone. So his coworkers began to notice a couple weeks before August the 10th that he seemed uncharacteristically down. A lot of sections from the FBI report are redacted just because they probably mention individuals' names or addresses or phone numbers or what have you. But from the sections that we can see, we see that on August the 3rd, he mentioned to a coworker that he felt he wasn't living up to what others thought of him. And then only a couple of days later, his family held an intervention for something. Again, the specifics have been redacted. We could speculate if it was perhaps depression. Maybe he mentioned he was going to harm himself. Maybe it was something drug or substance related. I don't really feel like taking guesses as to what the man's mental health was, but we can assume from what we have. After this intervention, the family noted that he seemed to be doing better, although he was also seeming to drink in excess. And then it would only be 5 days after this intervention that the hijacking would occur. Now, while this may lead you to believe that perhaps it was some short notice, spur of the moment thing that caused the hijacking to occur, there were signs of some kind of suspicious activity at least a year in advance. Because on at least 2 occasions within the previous year, Richard had gotten in trouble, and by in trouble I mean told to leave, because he and another employee were standing in a cockpit when they weren't supposed to be, and quote, flipping and pointing at switches. Now, of course, you could chalk this up to just general interest with planes, but given where it went, it's understandable why that activity seems suspicious in hindsight. Now, there's also another important question to ask. Richard's entire job was to just do ground maintenance for planes. Sure, he knew how to taxi them around, but that was with the assistance of an air tug and another person. So how did this guy learn how to take off and fly a plane on his own? Well, I don't think I have to tell you, in the modern age of the internet, it's not hard to look up a user manual for a kind of plane, or even a flight simulator for that specific model. Out of all of Richard's coworkers that were interviewed, none of them said that they knew of him having a flight sim, but that each of them individually knew it was pretty easy to get a flight sim. Also, the FBI raided and investigated his house after this, and even though they don't mention that they found like a flight sim on his computer or anything, I don't know how well they investigated, so he almost certainly had something. I mention that to say I don't think this was a short notice thing. It takes a long time to learn how to effectively fly a passenger plane.
Yeah.
And while a lot of people point to the intervention and the mention a week prior that he felt he wasn't living up to expectations as being maybe a fight he got into or some short notice thing that led to this, I think that the events of August the 10th were coming for a very long time. One theory poised by the Rolling Stones article that I mentioned earlier through interviews of people who were friends with Richard is that due to various concussions and head trauma that Richard received while playing football, perhaps CTE was a part of the issue. Or basically the idea that, for those of you who may not know, chronic long-term head trauma can lead to things like increased aggression, instability, increased risk-taking decisions, etc. And while I don't think that was entirely what was at play here, I would certainly be willing to believe that it was a factor. One more thing I want to mention from this Rolling Stones article, which the article itself is great. Tim Dickinson did a fantastic job at compiling it. However, there's this one part that's really funny, and I understand that internet culture is very weird and hard to understand from the outside looking in, but that being said, I have to read this paragraph. So this is during a point in the article where it's discussing potential warning signs or clues people may have been able to see if Richard left any hints as to what he's about to do. And it closes with, Russell also kept a Pinterest profile where he went by the handle bbro and collected memes, including several from the satirical site despair.com. In July of 2018, days before his unauthorized departure, Russell pinned an image to a board called Dank Memes It was a Photoshop of a chubby kid with brown hair dressed up as Sonic the Hedgehog with a sad, distant look in his eyes. It's not a spitting image.
What?
But it's hard to not see Russell in the child's face. No matter how fast I run, the text reads, I cannot run away from the pain. And like, yeah, sure, maybe like ironic memes being used by people who mean them unironically, sure, but just when he said you can see Russell in the child's face, I lost it. Like, we have lost the plot, boys.
Oh, gosh.
And perhaps there's no better sign of Richard's state of mind or his character than the events of the flight itself. As soon as contact is established with Richard, it's apparent that he's just up here to have fun.
Yeah.
It's apparent that he has no real plans as to what he's going to do up here, and disturbingly, he doesn't even have any plans to land. The first thing he does is begin banking the plane around Mount Rainier. As he comes out of this, he immediately starts throwing up. It's around this time that it sounds like Richard is losing some of the gumption he had initially. Like early on, you could hear like the adrenaline and the excitement in his voice, but now there seems to be a lot more regret.
I'm sorry, say that again? Sorry, my mic came off. I threw up a little bit. Hold on. Shoot. Man, I'm sorry about this. I hope this doesn't ruin your day.
Air traffic control begins to try to find places for him to land, eventually suggesting a military base, but Richard says he doesn't want to do that because he'll get beat up.
That's McCord Field. Oh man, those guys will rough me up if I tried landing there. I think I might mess something up there too. I wouldn't want to do that. Hopefully, they probably got anti-aircraft. No, they don't have any of that stuff. We're just trying to find a place for you to land safely.
At around 8:15 p.m., the jets from the Oregon National Guard show up. It took them about 7 minutes to get from their base to Richard's plane. So that meant there was about half an hour between Richard taking off and the jets being mobilized. We'll talk about that near the end. It's also around this time that Richard begins to realize the gravity of what he's done, making the comment that he thinks he'll get jail for life for doing this.
This is probably like jail time for life, huh? I mean, I would hope it is for a guy like me.
At one point, air traffic control gets a hold of a pilot who can direct Richard on how to successfully land the plane.
22, cross runway 16 left, contact. Just flying the plane around, you seem comfortable with that? Oh, hell yeah, it's a blast, man. I played video games before, so I know what I'm doing a little bit.
See, not only was Richard an inexperienced pilot behind the wheel, he was an inexperienced pilot behind the wheel of a notoriously hard-to-land plane. This model of plane's designation was a Dash 8 among airports, however pilots would refer to it as a Crash 8 due to the plane's quick aptitude for rising or falling. Everyone around Richard knows this and begins to try to direct him towards something that will have the least likely amount of surrounding casualties. For example, at one point, Richard flies over a rather small airstrip and asks about landing there, but the pilot keeps trying to tell him to go back to the military base because, for one, the military base airstrip is much bigger, and two, there's less people near the runway. Eventually, they just start asking him if he's willing to put the plane down in the water for the same reason. But as discussed, it seems that Richard doesn't plan on landing. There's one point after Richard asks the pilot to help him pressurize the cabin. It's the only time over the whole call that we hear Richard get anything close to violent.
Okay, thank you. Of 16 left, American 7 Alaska 691. Damn it, Andrew! People's lives are at stake here. Now, Rich, don't say stuff like that. No, I didn't told you. I don't want to hear no one. I just want you to whisper sweet nothings into my ear.
So maybe he was just panicking in fear for his life or in fear for the life of others. That
didn't seem violent to me. That almost seemed like a plea for help at that point. He even made a joke. I just want you to whisper sweet nothings into my ear. To me, that sounds like he just wants to talk. and it's a shame he couldn't.
He didn't take into account when he got in the plane, but I digress. Or maybe the depressurization was getting to him and he was in a comparatively unsteady state of mind while behind the wheel of a passenger plane. Eventually, Richard asked the pilot he's speaking to if he thinks he can get a job after this.
Not concentrate so much on flying the airplane. Hey, you think if I land this successfully, Alaska will give me a job as a pilot? I think they would give you a job doing anything if you could pull this off. Yeah, right.
What a wild answer. That says two things to me. That's one, the importance of getting this person and getting this plane on the ground safely with as few casualties as possible. And two, he's telling him it's not going to be easy. If you can do it at all, you can get whatever you want. So that's not what you'd want to be hearing in his situation, I'm sure.
Nah, I'm a white guy.
And that's what he just said right there is actually, I don't know if Windigoon's gonna go into it too much, but in other stories and videos, they've made more emphasis on the fact that he's a white guy, as if he had some situations revolving around that, and who really knows at this point. But I've heard that there's more emphasis and more importance around that line than most people are let on.
Before remarking that he wants to go see the orca. Context for that, there was a local story at the time of a mother orca whose baby died off the coast of like the Oregon, Washington area, and scientists had been tracking her because she was like carrying her dead baby, and it was like a real sad story in the news at the time. So that's what Richard's referring to when he says he wants to take the plane to go see that orca. There's also one part during the call when not really asked specifically anything like, oh, why did you do this? Or why did you steal the plane? He just says this.
Okay, you know how fast you're going?
Hold behind Jet.
That's 2021. Minimum wage. We'll chalk it up to that. Maybe that'll grease the gears a little bit with the higher up. Maybe, yeah.
And while, of course, there's a certain level of sarcasm there, it also points to him just overall not really enjoying his position in life. The two most heartbreaking moments to me of the entire flight logs are, for one, when he starts to take into account his family and the people in his life who will miss him when he's gone.
I got a lot of people that care about me, and it's going to disappoint them to hear that I did this. I would like to apologize to each and every one of them. Just a broken guy. Got a few screws loose, I guess. Never really knew it until now.
And another, when he kind of mentions that he didn't get the clarity coming up here that he hoped he would.
Just kind of lightheaded, dizzy. Man, and the sights went by so fast, too. I was thinking, like, I'm going to have this moment of serenity, I'll be able to take in all the sights. There's a lot of pretty stuff, but I think they're prettier in a different context.
Another important detail about this story to mention is that people on the ground around the area saw the plane behaving, sporadically and thought something was weird. So a bunch of people, because it's 2018, started taking cell phone videos. I mention that now because one cell phone was able to record one of the wildest maneuvers in aviation history, at least considering the pilot and plane the maneuver was performed with. Richard asked the tower if he can perform a barrel roll.
I think I'm going to try to do a barrel roll, and if that goes good, I'll just go nose down and call it a night.
I mean, he's more wondering out loud. It's not like he's going to listen to what they have to say at this point anyway. So, while being followed by two jets and Lord knows how many people on the ground, Richard does this. My favorite part about the barrel roll, other than the fact that he did it, is that everyone connected to this story, regardless of if they loved Richard or hated him, everyone acknowledges that the barrel roll was cool. The Horizon CEO, in a statement he would give the next day, said that it was, quote, incredible, and the two fighter jet pilots that were following Richard said this. I should mention their code word for Richard's plane they were chasing was Toy 1. It stood for Track of Interest 1. So one pilot says, Toy 1 just completed a barrel roll. The other pilot responded with, confirm he did a barrel roll, and the first pilot says, affirm, before chuckling and saying he cleared the surface of the water by approximately 10 feet. Which is professional military speak for, bro, did you see that? Oh, I forgot to mention this.
Oh my gosh.
I want to mention this because I'm sure a lot of people clicked on this video just because they're plane enthusiasts. The two fighter jets that were chasing him were McDonnell Douglas F-15C Eagles. So there's someone out there who's really glad I mentioned that. Even the control tower he was in communication with admitted that he pulled it off and it was pretty good, but now it's time to come back. And then Richard says one of the other most depressing things in the entire call.
All right, Rich, this is Captain Bill. Congratulations, you did that. Now let's try to land that airplane safely and not hurt anybody on the ground.
All right. Damn it, I don't know, man. I don't know. I don't want to. I was kind of hoping that was going to be it, you know?
Eventually, the plane finds its way over the southern point of an island called Ketron Island, again in Washington. While speaking to the control tower about being low on gas, Russell remarks that he believes one of the engines is going out. In a move that investigators would later find to be intentional, the nose of the plane began to barrel down. 6 seconds after this maneuver, the plane crashed into the woods of Ketron Island, Washington. The plane made an explosive impact with the ground, and the fire that ensued covered an area of about 2 acres before firefighters arrived on a ferry and were able to stop the flames. Ketron Island itself had a low population, only about 17 people. And while if Richard continued forward for just a couple seconds longer, he probably would have hit an occupied cabin on the island, despite that, no one in the crash was injured beside Richard himself. And as you can imagine, Richard Russell did not survive the crash. His death was ruled to be caused by several traumatic injuries and to be, of course, self-inflicted. Now, we'll talk about Richard in a second, but I want to mention a few more interesting facts and developments that came because of this case. For one, this was kind of a PR nightmare, especially for Alaska Airlines and Horizon, because while this could pretty much have happened to any airline, it was specifically theirs, so they got the heat for it. This got really controversial with airport security because only a month earlier, in July of 2018, the TSA had delivered a report to their head administrator citing the potential of inside threats. Basically, as I'm sure we're all aware, airport security is pretty tight since 9/11. Or at least it's pretty tight for passengers on planes. The concern that the TSA raised in July of 2018 is that employees are pretty laid back. Sure, you don't want your employees coming into work every day and getting patted down, but there's been a lot of stories of employees or TSA agents getting guns or other kinds of weapons onto planes. So the fact that the TSA was already aware this could be an issue and then this event happened caused a pretty big storm in the media. And the really interesting thing about this case from an investigative standpoint is that absolutely nothing went wrong. At least nothing went wrong as far as procedure goes. Think about it. There's only a few people who have access to planes at any point, and they're not taught how to fly them. People are given background checks, but Richard passed every background check. It's not like he had some kind of criminal record. There's no precedent, or at least there wasn't a precedent, for an employee who's worked at the company for 3.5 years, been faithful and solid up until this point, just one day deciding with information he learned on the internet to steal a plane and take off. Because of this event, airports changed a lot of their methods for employee security. For example, many implemented a rule that even workers on the ground cannot go out to a plane without a second person. Or many have implemented that airport employees are given regular mental health screenings. I'm not sure if that would have done anything in Richard's case, but it's still a nice thought.
Right.
Furthermore, NORAD, the organization that was responsible for the response time of the jets that came to intercept Richard, while sure, Richard wasn't planning to attack a populated area or anything, but if he were to, if someone was to steal a plane in his position to cause a lot of damage, he would have already crashed it by the time the jet showed up. So NORAD changed their response time protocols. You no longer have to go to the top brass to get clearance. If the guy at the location feels that they need a jet response, then he can order it and then answer for it later. During his flight, he went as far east as Graham, Washington, and as far west as Anderson Island, Washington, in a flight that lasted for a total of 1 hour and 10 minutes. And at the end of the day, the only definitive physical damage that Richard caused was 17 incoming flights were diverted to nearby airports, 75 were delayed, 5 were canceled. The area of Kentron Island, 2 acres of it, was destroyed and on fire, and one $30 million plane was crashed.
All things considered, super minimal casualties and destruction for a random person hijacking a plane. Thank goodness he had good intentions and didn't want to hurt anybody, because that could have been absolutely devastating.
Interestingly, according to the Seattle police report, the police went to check for the audio logs of the call on August the 13th. However, by unknown means, the call had already leaked online by August the 11th. And as soon as that call from the cockpit went online, a legend was born. The mythos of the Sky King exploded. People began to praise him as a hero of the clouds, as the everyday man who decided to stick it to his bosses, and with his final moments, do something worth remembering. Some ascribed this almost Robin Hood persona to him. And most of the tributes for Richard, everything from Facebook groups to subreddits, describes him as this misunderstood hero of the common man. I mean, even the name Sky King implies a level of reverence. And what do I think of the Sky King? Do I think he lives up to the legend? Do I think that the stories and the myths around him are all true? No, but also yes. The idea that Richard was this troubled individual who set off for the clouds, and then everything just kind of made sense up there. And he lived his life in a manner that if he could answer for, he'd agree was the right way to go out. I don't think that's true. I think about that one section of the call, to me probably the most depressing part, when he's talking about the view and he's describing how he thought it would look one way, but it really doesn't from up here. Another detail that came out in reports is that apparently right before the crash, he sent a text message to his wife. And the specific message has never been made public, but according to the family, the general gist of it was that he's sorry and she deserved better. From friends and family who have spoken of Richard, it seems they kind of resent the moniker of Sky King, because with his final act, he caused a lot of damage. Absolutely, he was in an unstable state of mind. I understand that. But it seems like, from all accounts we have, that he had a family who truly loved and cared for him and wanted to see him get better. Only a few days before this event, they staged an intervention and wanted to see him come out of it as a better man. And to theorize otherwise, or theorize some malicious intent on their behalf, is unfair to the family. And yes, I don't believe he intended to hurt anyone with his hijacking.
Right.
However, stealing a plane that you think you can fly and then flying it over heavily populated areas only to put it down in an island that you're pretty sure doesn't have anyone on it is insanely reckless. Like I said, there was a cabin on that island right above where he crashed the plane. Not to mention, he started a forest fire that took up 2 acres, and it seems like every year there's some colossal fire out west that results in the deaths of a lot of people.
Right.
He could have very well caused one of those. And yes, even though those things didn't happen, if nothing else, he left Hannah as a widow. But with that being said, I get it. One of the most interesting things about Sky King to me is anytime I see like a true crime case, so to speak, like you hear about someone murdering someone else or, you know, something to that effect, everyone wants to know the motive, right? They're always like, oh, why? Oh, did the person they kill like try to do something to them? Did they have this relationship? You know, people theorize, whatever. But I remember when Sky King happened. I remember within a couple days of Richard stealing the plane, of seeing like the memes and the stories online, I didn't see a single person ask why he did it. There was just this kind of, this solemn understanding almost.
Exactly.
Of, yeah, I get it.
Yep.
Someone who is unhappy with their life and suffering from Lord knows what kind of mental illness. There's almost, I hate to admit it because like I mentioned earlier, it was an act that endangered a lot of people and hurt a lot of people emotionally. But in isolation, there is almost a poetry to someone who has spent their entire career, or at least the past 4 years of his life, watching planes take off every day. And then one day, he just wants to be in one. It's no secret that, by and large, the fellows aren't doing great as of lately. Depression and self-harm rates are consistently on the rise. And there's just a lot of people who, while the rest of us are enjoying life and getting by, they just can't. And because of that, there's a lot of people who relate to Richard. A lot of people who see the story of someone who had had enough, was at his end, but before he went, just wanted to see how big the sky could get. Is that truly what I think he is? Do I think he found some kind of clarity or nirvana almost while he was up there? No, because that's never the answer. Anyone who survives that kind of situation comes out of it saying that it absolutely wasn't the answer. And I wish almost that I could say he did have peace in the end, but from his words and the text he sent his wife and whatnot, it seems that he didn't, and that is tragic. But I also understand seeing a guy steal a plane just so he could do a barrel roll. I understand why people call him the Sky King. Shortly after the hijacking, which, fun fact, legally was never called a hijacking because no passengers were kidnapped or stolen during this event. Instead, it was just called a theft, which, funny note. But in the days following the theft, the police would search Richard's Honda Civic, they would search his house, and they would search his locker at work. In his locker, locker 55, that had an unlocked padlock on the front, police found things like various snacks, his wallet, and a red notebook. In the notebook, a few various phrases and comments were written down, but most interesting among them was this. He wanted to create something with a profound insight and charm. He had once been confident in his writing, so he gave that a shot. During one of his many breaks at work, he decided to go for it. Rather than use the downtime to escape in books or social media, he would use it to benefit his all mankind. He sat in the corner of the dilapidated locker room, searching for the concepts he wanted to convey. What did he know the most about? What did he feel strongly about? Several questions fizzled in his mind, but no resolutions were made. It all felt so irrelevant. He was a cure. Nothing was worthy enough for the paper. I don't know what was going through Richard's mind in his last days, and I don't profess to. I do know that what he did is not the answer, and it sounds like in the end, sadly, he found out it wasn't the answer as well. But I also understand looking to his story and finding some inspiration. Not necessarily in what he did, but the spirit behind why he did it. Of course, I don't condone his actions in any means. I think I've adequately said why they were dangerous. And I could condemn it, but for someone in Richard's state of mind, that's not going to do a lot. I can simply just say, I get it. And something that I think I can agree with, as well as Richard's family and anyone else who loves or hates his actions, I think we can all say, I hope he's at peace.
Thank you, Wendigoon. Great video. I only recently learned about this story maybe a year or two ago, and immediately it connected with me. Like, I'm sure it resonates with a lot of you. I think that Wendigoon hit it right there, as maybe this is a man thing. I can't speak on behalf of women, obviously, but I do feel like the place of man in modern society is very it's questionable. Women are kicking ass these days, and they're able to do just about damn near anything, and it's making men feel unneeded and less fulfilled in general. And I'm not going to get into gender dynamics too much here, but I will say in general, it's really hard to feel fulfillment in most modern day 9-to-5 jobs. He mentioned, minimum wage will give a start to why I'm doing this there. I know before I really had any sort of success on YouTube, I was not really happy with any of the jobs I had. And I eventually just got to a point where I said, man, the money is not worth it. And I'm just going to take a stab at something I want to do, period. And circumstances aligned, and I was very fortunate, but I'm one of the few, and I know exactly how he feels. The speculation for the last text message that allegedly sent to his wife, that's heartbreaking and ever so relatable too. I know when I was younger and I was going through my depressed stages, I felt the same way. I felt my significant other at the time, she deserved better. I truly felt it. And when you feel like that, it's really, really hard to pull yourself out of it. So I do want to say that each and every one of you guys, you are appreciated, you are loved, and no matter what, it is not worth it to do anything crazy like this. I've heard so many different cases of people attempting to take their own life there, and they regret it. They halfway through the process, they realize it's not worth it. I have a very similar circumstance. I'm not going to go into detail on this video, but I can relate to this all too well. And I understand why somebody would want to achieve more before just ending your save game of life. Regardless, you are loved and you are appreciated, as minute as it is from some random YouTuber. But overall, I think the story of the Sky King it's tragically poetic. It really does give the everyday man something. It gives him something. And with how hard it is to get the attention that we all need and want, Wendigoon, of course, did a great job covering this, as always. I'll go ahead and link all the videos we covered tonight down below, but we'll go ahead and wrap it up here. I think that's a good note to end it on. As always, I want to thank you all so much for tuning in. Much love. You are appreciated. I'll see you guys next time. Cheers.